This lesson is a bonus lesson for those who want to draw dry-stacked block house plans. What that means is the outside walls of the home are placed with concrete blocks that are stacked together, and then rebar and surface bonding cement bonds the whole thing together into one structural wall unit. So there's unique things to consider when you're designing with dry-stacked blocks. Because you don't want to cut any more blocks than you absolutely have to, you want to design the entire house on half block increments. So this, to get things started, we'll go look at our QCAD for a moment. We have a file open here and a file name. I can show it over here easier under the window. There's a bonushouse.dxf. That's on your training CD. We have another file open, tabloid template DXF, and that's just the empty frame to put your drawing in. So what we want you to do is we want you to open up both of these drawings. We want you to open up the tabloid template, which is what you'll use to draw on, and then we want you to open the bonus house, which is what we're going to discuss. So we'll discuss various things. You can switch back and forth. You can watch through this discussion. You can halt the video and go back over the other file and try it. So you can either have both files available on your computer or just the tabloid. The choice is yours. So let's get started. An outcrop on a dry-stacked block home is where the wall moves out about 2 feet and then continues on. This makes the wall strong because we have the lateral force strength right here. The wall cannot be pushed in. So this L right here makes that whole full-length wall much stronger by anchoring the middle of it. So let's take a look up at these pictures for a moment. What we have here is 1, 2, 3 concrete blocks that forms an outcrop. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 concrete blocks that forms an outcrop. You notice if this was row 1 of the block wall, then this would have to be row 2, and vice versa. If this was row 1, then this would have to be row 2, because you can never have the joints where the blocks join together appear at the same place on 2 successive rows. Notice there's a full block across this crack, and down here there's a full block across this crack, and then this crack has a full block across it on the next row. So the rows alternate: row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, or the opposite: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, till you get to the top of the wall. This gives you the running bond beam pattern. So our concern right now are these dimensions and the fact that they're not the same. So we'll zoom out a minute. Previous zoom level. We'll zoom in and read this information right here. Full block installed length is 15 3/4 inches. Half block installed length is half of that. Corner block width is 8.0625. And what does that mean? Well, the concrete block is 8 inches wide, but all of our installation theories are that you can't ever get two things to fit tightly against each other. So we allow a 1/16 of an inch gap between them. So this 0.0625 is a 1/16 of an inch. So you have to allow the placed position of the block to be a width of 8.0625. And the half block length is 7.875 inches. So with that knowledge, let's back up. Go back and look at these again. You notice that since this is 8.0625 and this is 8.0625, the widths and the total distance from this edge to that edge is 2 foot 7 7/8 inches. Over here, we don't have a corner block affecting this dimension from here to here. We only have 2 blocks in series, and they add up to 2 foot 7 1/2 inch. So there's 3/8 of an inch difference between these 2 points and these 2 points. And this is what causes problems when people are trying to build with dry-stacked blocks. You have to take this into consideration. Notice that the wall, if this was the outside edge of the wall, and it made an incropping here, and then the wall continued, the wall transition is only 1 foot 11 7/8 of an inch right here. Over here it's also 1 foot 11 1/2 inches. So these numbers are also different. So what we have here is that the bigger number has to prevail, because you can't stack these longer stack of blocks in the same place this shorter stack of blocks lives. So you got to take the longer of the two, and that's this one. So what that means is that when your wall does an outcrop transition, the outside edge of the wall transitions 1 foot 11 7/8 inches. And that's very important information. The final result of all this conversation means that these two blocks right here, this joint right here, has to have 3/8 of an inch gap between these two blocks. By placing a 3/8 of an inch gap, then these two corner blocks and this one full block will fit in the same distance from here to here. So down here I've drawn an example. If we zoom in real tight, you can see that. So let's zoom in real tight. We can figure out how. Notice right here there's a gap. That's 3/8 of an inch to scale. So now with that gap, this edge lines up, and this edge down here lines up with this edge. The reason I've done this is we're going to use these as test vehicles later on to figure out how to place the half blocks on a wall corner. So this is all preparatory information that there is a difference. You got to put a space in this combination so it's the same distance as this combination. So now what we've made two dummy corner block sets here that both have the same distance from the outside of the edge of the wall through the crop to the outside edge of the continuing wall. They are both now exactly this number, 1 foot 11 7/8 inches, because we added 3/8 to this one. 4/8 and 3/8, 7/8. So now let's get on with the rest of the project here. Many people mistakenly feel that, well, if it's a 2-block outcrop, then it must be 2 blocks wide, but that's just not the case. Here's our 2 blocks, and you notice that the wall turns here, goes down here, and goes there. This is 2 block lengths right here, 4 half blocks. So that's just not true, because the reason is that the wall doesn't include this half block here. So the wall is really a block and a half. The offset's a block and a half. But it's even worse than that. It's a block and a half plus this 1/4 of an inch difference between a corner block and a normal 8-inch wide block. So we have to use a number we calculated up there, 1 foot 11 7/8 inches. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to move this wall and get this wall back where it belongs. To move this outcrop, first we're going to zoom in so we see what we're doing here. We're going to move this test corner block pattern out of the way. So we're just going to go up here and select everything inside the window, everything inclusive within the window. That's all that stuff. Now we can edit that, move it. We're going to use this corner here, and we'll use the grid to move it over here. And delete the original, so now that's moved out of the way. So go ahead and deselect everything. So what we're going to do, we're going to now fix this wall. Right now the dimension from here to here is 31.5 inches, when in fact it should be 23 7/8 inches. So the difference between those two numbers is 7.625. So let's back out a little bit here. we're going to move this wall segment 7.625 inches up. And we want to take with it these dimensions because the dimensions haven't changed in horizontal dimension. So we're going to get started here by make sure nothing's selected. Edit, we're going to stretch entities. It's asking for the first corner. We're going to freehand the first corner. We want to include these two wall segments and everything below them. So we'll start over here. Come down and include the dimensions of those two wall segments. So now we set our window, specify the reference point to the next question. So we're going to come up here and we're going to use end of lines. We're going to set this corner right here. Notice how it moves a little bit. I don't trust that. So I'm going to set the intersection. That doesn't move at all. So this is the reference point. Notice now I have a relative reference point. So this means we can use our command line. So we simply hit spacebar. It's asking for the target point. Target point is at relative to the reference point. X is 0. So it's 0, comma. I want to move it up 7.625 inches. So it's plus 7.625. Enter. Now that's all been adjusted. So let's do a dimension on it and make sure that it's what we think it is. So we'll go ahead and run our dimension routine here. We'll dimension this guy from the ends of these lines, the end of that line to the end of that line. And we'll move him over a little bit. If you notice, it's 1 foot 11 and 7/8 inches, so that's correct. So now let's get this block assembly here. See if I can unselect that. I don't know why that green line is there. I'm a little confused by that. I think that green line is something that doesn't belong there. So the way to get around that is select everything in groups. If that green line is not part of the group, then it will be gone. Now we go ahead and move it. Let it move. Reference point be the inside corner. New reference point be this inside corner. Delete the original. Notice this line is still here, so that was a mistake. I'll delete that guy. Guess what? Deleted everything. So I gotta undo. Gotta deselect everything. And then I deleted that. So what we've done now, we've readjusted everything. We now have our blocks that fit the actual corner. And you can see how the block arrangement works. So this is going to be important in a few more minutes when we hit our next issue. So before we do that, let's go back up here and view everything. Let's move one more wall, and then you can go ahead and move these other walls yourself. So we'll move this wall next. So the first step is to decide we're going to edit. I'm going to move this wall. I'm going to freehand the selection of what's going to be stretched. So those entities will be stretched. Specify the reference point. So we're going to specify the reference point. This corner right here. Now we have a relative reference point, target, so we can hit spacebar. We're going to move it 7.625 inches to the left. So that means at minus 7.625. Keep it Y0. And now that wall's been fixed. So I'll let you fix the other walls. When you get those fixed, and we'll continue on with the next issue. This is another example of always being vigilant. When we move this wall over 7.625 inches, this dimension now no longer fits the number of blocks we have listed above it. It was 26 blocks, now it's not. That number does not equate to 26 blocks. So what I suggest you do is delete the 26 blocks text for right now. Because it's a lie. Okay, we need to stop for a moment and identify where we're getting these block length numbers. If you purchase the DryStacked handbook, then Appendix A has spreadsheet tables. And we're looking here, it says the number of units. If it was 3 blocks, then the total length of the 3 blocks in inches would be 47 2/8 inches. The length of 3 blocks in feet and inches would be 3 feet 11 2/8 inches. So that's where I'm getting my numbers. This is page 1 of the spreadsheet. There's also, I'll stop. I'm pausing so that if you don't have the book, you can at least look at these tables. You can go back to this part of the video, look at these tables for doing your practice drawings. Once again, here it's 26 blocks is 409 4/8 inches, or it's 34 feet 1 4/8 inches. So it's feet and inches or just inches. These have to do with cell locations, and we're not discussing that at this time. So the tables go all the way down to 46 feet. And below that we have the block height tables for people that want to know how tall the wall will be. Well, if the wall is 14 blocks high, then it will be 107 5/8 inches, or to be 8 foot 11 5/8 inches, almost 9 feet. So that's where the data is coming from. This data includes things such as wall growth and the fact you can't actually make 2 blocks touch evenly when you stack them adjacent to each other. So they have the variation factors built in. So when we say that a half block is 7.875 inches long, that's called the installed length of the half block. That includes a 1/16 of an inch for the fact you can't touch 2 adjacent blocks together. And it also includes a 1/16 of an inch for wall growth, which is fully explained in the DryStacked handbook. So those 2 factors are already rolled in. The only thing we can include in this table is the fact that a corner block is 8.0625 inches wide. And that messes up the table, so during this session we're showing you how to adjust the actual floor plan to include these corner blocks.